everybody. So, this weekend was crazy. It was like, for me, I was feeling so much of the collective energy that I would just like go into these huge like emotional spaces, but I couldn't attach like where it was coming from me. So it was like very recognizable that it wasn't my energy. But like when you're feeling that like fear, or you're feeling that grief, or you're feeling that whatever depression or whatever emotions are coming up in you, sometimes because you're in a lower vibration, it's hard to decipher between the ego and the higher self. So your ego will start chiming in because you're resonating with a lower frequency at that moment. Even if it's not yours, even if it's not stemming from something in your life, the ego will try to attach that feeling to something in your life to make you want to make some rash decision when you're not in a space to do that. And so that's what I've been feeling a lot. Like if you've done a lot of the work and you're like going through this through these emotional, like you can feel the energies of everyone else, and you're feeling these emotions come up, and you're like, wait, like no, like I've done this before. Just understand that if you're trying to attach it to something that you've already looked at, that's usually just your ego trying to suck you back in. Because at the end of the day, like, we don't ever kill the ego. When someone says kill the ego, for me, I don't say, oh, you're wrong. I say, in my brain, what they're really trying to say is that when you kill the ego, you're not letting the ego be in the driver's seat anymore. So the ego's always there. You can always dip into a low vibrational frequency. You can always have a conversation with somebody who can't raise their vibration to where you normally are at. So you have to kind of like dip into a lower frequency in order to like interact with them at a level that they'll be able to receive. And there's nothing wrong with that. We're humans. We're here to play with energy. But we also have to know how to be the observer and not absorb or not attach. Oh my gosh, I gotta show you guys the deer running through my yard right now. I live in the mountains, and I gotta put my phone back on. We have the deer and all the wildlife, the turkey, like we see everything. But they basically live in our neighborhoods with us. I saw it. My daughter's like, did you see the deer? I saw it. That was so cool. Now she's gonna go back in because I told her I was making a video. She can't interrupt me. But the deer was too cool. So anyways, that kind of got me off track. But I came on here to make a video about a question that somebody had asked me. And I was like, I never looked at it in the way that Spirit brought through this analogy. And I couldn't, like, I shared it with her, but then I couldn't not share it with you guys because I felt like it was such a beautiful way of looking at the topic at hand. So what was asked was, how do you stay focused within? Like, how do you stay, like, feeding yourself, you feeding you filling your own cup, not reaching externally for things to fulfill you, to make you feel like you matter, to give you self-worth, to feel happy in life, to feel joy, to feel appreciative about the things around you. Like, how do you stay in that space, you know? And I was like, ooh, that's a really good question. I was like, okay, how, like, I asked myself that question, like, how do you stay in that space, Kelsey, you know? And so for me, that immediately takes me to this place where, like, I'm a mother of 4 and I stay home with my kids. So 95% of my time, I'm interacting with children. It's me alone. I don't really interact with a lot of adults, and I'm interacting with children. To me, that is a huge benefit because it forces you to detach from a lot of like programming that we learn in the Matrix. Interacting with other adults where we kind of keep the programming alive by continuously gossiping about, you know, certain things, or like wanting to be in different groups or cliques to feel like you belong and all this kind of stuff. And it was like, as soon as I had my kids, I went from being a person who works constantly, who's in school constantly. I got my bachelor's degree, my master's degree, and as soon as I had kids, it was like all ripped away from me. What a reality check. It makes you go within. It makes you be with yourself. It makes you find your worth within yourself, because you don't have a choice but to appreciate where you are right now. And so for me, I had to learn how to be this overachiever, always in the spotlight, in the newspapers for sports, doing all this stuff, and being known for that, to detach from that and find my worth in staying home, not working, not being in school, not being seen by other people or even like interacting with other people, and find my worth in that. Like, any woman who has been in that situation where they're this overachiever and then they have to somehow stay at home and feel worthy, like, that is such a soul lesson that you come in to learn, because it teaches you how to go within. It teaches you that, like, all of those things that you used to work so hard for and give like every single moment of your time to, just to reach externally to feel validated, they didn't really truly validate you the whole time. Hold on one second. Hey Gray, mommy's making a video and I'll be in a few minutes, okay? Yeah, you can get a snack. Sorry guys, if you want me to channel to you, you have to get interruptions. So anyways, I want to share the analogy with you. So I wrote everything down so I didn't miss anything, but this was so perfect. This is so perfect. I had to share it with you guys. Okay. It says, it's like finding ways to make the moments magical. Create magic in the mundane. Figuring out how to be more appreciative of the things you've never appreciated before. Okay, and here's the analogy. So it's like when you go on a drive, and you, like, for me, it was this, okay? So I grew up in Pennsylvania. I feel like the light is weird right there. I grew up in Pennsylvania, and after college, I moved to DC. I lived there for a couple years. I bought a house in Virginia, lived there for a couple years, moved out to California, lived there for a couple years, came back to Virginia for a couple years, and now I'm back in Pennsylvania in a place that's still a few hours from home in the mountains. And it was like, when I came back, I looked at everything that I used to see when I grew up here from like age 0 to 22 or whatever it was. And all those things that I used to look at, and it was like I saw them every day. I was in lower vibrational frequencies. It was all before my spiritual awakening. And it was all through all my trauma. And I saw no beauty in where I came from. Almost none. Like, I was like, what's the point of like moving back there? You know, what's for me there? And then I left home for over a decade, had my spiritual awakening, and then come back. And I'm like, this is the most beautiful place I have ever been. Like, what the heck? You guys need to visit the mountains of Pennsylvania. It's one of the most beautiful places in the United States. And everybody who lives here, it feels like, that's never moved away, completely takes it for granted, right? But that's what Spirit was coming through with here. I just wanted to use that as an example so you could really feel into what I'm trying to say and what Spirit's trying to say. It's like when you go on a drive and realize the places you had been to in the past seem more beautiful now. It's like, I can't believe how low vibe and program I once was. I couldn't appreciate anything sitting in those lower vibrational spaces. It was like, back before I had my awakening, I would be sitting in the most beautiful place in the world and I couldn't even appreciate it. And I've been to a lot of beautiful places. I've been all over the United States. When I was in college, I took this course that was actually a road trip. And we started in Pennsylvania. We went all the way down. We went all the way up to the United States, all up the West Coast, the Pacific Northwest. We saw the Grand Canyon. We went everywhere. We saw so many beautiful things. I was a history major, so we went to like all the historical stuff, and we just like visited a bunch of awesome places and learned and wrote reports and did all that kind of thing. But it was so cool to just see all the culture. But even then, I saw so many beautiful things. But in those, that was like, oh my gosh, I can't remember what year it was. Oh, it was over a decade ago. And I think back in my mind, I'm like, I never even appreciated all those places I went. Can I rewind with my vibrational frequency that I have now and go back and take that trip and appreciate things so much more and just freaking milk it and make it so awesome? I couldn't do it then. And it's crazy because when you're in it, you're so unconscious of the fact that you're in a low vibration because you're programmed to think it's normal, to feel like it's normal. So literally, if you've never even tasted higher vibrations before, you don't even realize how much better life can be. And it has nothing to do with what you have. It has nothing to do with the relationship you're in. It has nothing to do with the job that you have or your circumstances. It has to do with your mindset. It has to do with you being able to reach down within and find appreciation in freaking everything. I love getting a big ass load of laundry, piling it on the bed, sorting it out, listening to a podcast while I'm doing it, and just feeding myself with knowledge and information and different perspectives. I love gathering perspectives and just seeing so many different angles of looking at things. So then when I come through with my higher self, I have so many like places to see any situation or circumstance or anything from, that I know I can make the highest, most sovereign divine choice for myself because I'm open to every single angle of it. I'm not stuck in this group who thinks this certain way. I'm not stuck in listening to what my mother or somebody in my family says, or a professor, or anything else, or a doctor. I am coming from a place of my own truth after being open to hearing and seeing and all the evidence and all the information and just everything. This applies to everything in life. It's complete surrender and detachment and going within and finding appreciation in every moment and be able to follow that internal guidance. Because that guidance is only for you. You can't ask somebody else advice on what to do for you. Only you know that. Every good spiritual teacher will always point you back to yourself, will always point you back within. Just remember that. Nobody has all the answers for you. You have all the answers for you. Okay, let's see what else I got here. It says when you can hold these spaces of appreciation, it will make your cup overflow and will become and it will be coming from you. You will be coming from within to fill your cup, because all those things that you were trying to fill your cup with externally, they weren't filling your cup. That was just your ego in the driver's seat. Okay. The ego convinces us we need validation from the external world to fill some kind of void within. You'll realize there was never a void. It was just that place you used to drive by that you weren't vibrationally capable of seeing the beauty yet. But now you are, because in every single moment you're practicing gratitude. And I just thought that was a beautiful message, and I wanted to share that with you guys. And right now, I know it's hard to discern between your ego and your higher self, but just know, if you're not feeling right, if you're like in a lower vibrational space, whether it's your energy or it's the collective energy that you're feeling because you're a sensitive person, don't make rash decisions in those spaces. Like, unless you're feeling like, hell yeah, I love life, don't make big choices. That is like the number one mistake of light workers, because they're like to that point where they've shed enough where they're not afraid to take leaps. They're not afraid to make changes, and they're not afraid to, make big scary changes, jump out of their comfort zone. But that can get you in trouble, because if you jump out of your comfort zone when you're like the ego's in the driver's seat, which it will be sometimes because we're all human, you might make a decision that hops you onto a different timeline where you're just repeating a cycle. It's just like leaving a relationship, or just like getting into a relationship before you're ready, and you're just going to end up repeating the same cycle with a different person. It's not the person. It's not the other person. It's always you. Like, you'll learn this when you're in a relationship. Like, once you get into a conscious relationship with two people who are willing to grow, it's no longer that game of blaming the other person, because you're both conscious and wanting to grow together, and it's just a tool you two are using each other in order to grow. It's a tool to learn how to unconditionally love. It's a practice, and the more you practice, the better you get, just like anything else. Just like with your meditation or your prayer, whatever it is. So go within, guys, because that's where the answers are. And I hope you guys have an amazing, beautiful, it's supposed to be beautiful out here, so we're going camping. I hope you guys have an amazing weekend too.